The Uganda we want. So mu Uganda gye twagala mu lutalo luno olw'okulwanyisa obulabbayo obukenuzi nze kyempita obuvundu. Munna Uganda alina okuba nga yeenyigiramu.
Ffenna twenyigire mu lutalo.
Ate abalala tebasomye kuzimba wabula bayize okuzimba.
Uganda gye twagala okulaba ng'enguudo zonna nkole nungi, public transport nga weeri.
Kati eno gavumenti eriwo erina akabonero ka Lucifer. Buli kyotunulako mu Uganda kiriko oxygen. Either babika amawulire malungi oba mawulire mabi. Minisita teyeetagisa kabangali budde buno zaki.
At this time, why should somebody import furniture from outside Uganda? Let us leave NRM to be in charge for another 36 years or more.
I really want to see a Uganda that believes in the rule of law. If you have a constitution in place, follow it to the letter. Don't change laws just because you want them to favor you.
Kuba njagala omanye nti obugagga bwonna Uganda bwe yeeyagaliramu buyita waffe ku ttaka lyaffe. Naye busoga mugidibaze.
How can a referral hospital refer you to a private clinic? The Uganda we want buli muntu ateekwa okumanya nti I am a stakeholder, nkwatibwako si kwesuulirayo gwa naggamba.
Uganda oyinza okukakana nga mwe mulina bagraduates aba university nga bangi okusinga ebungereza. Mwe mufokasinga nnyo ku degree. Eri bo bafokasinga nnyo nti byensomye mbijjeemu omulimu n'enkola.
We are dreaming of a Uganda where at a young age there is such a relationship between parent and son, parent and daughter, where the daughter can say this is what I want.
Uganda gye twagala empya tesobola kubeerawo nga tewali mateeka. Amateeka agakola.
The Uganda we want. Welcome to the program. My name is Robert Molanzi. This is the Uganda we want program. And the people we host in this program air out their views on issues which they would love to see dealt with so fast to achieve the Uganda they want to see. And our viewers and our listeners today, we discuss the kind of Uganda we want with Mr. Tom Okello. He is the Executive Director, National Forest Authority. And if you'd allow me, let's welcome the Executive Director for National Forest Authority.
I really want to greet you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ and to say you are welcome to this program, and I'm happy to be here with you and to talk about the Uganda we want.
It's a pleasure to have you. And just for our viewers who are actually watching you right now may not know who is Mr. Tom Okello, and it just in 3 or 4 minutes tell us who is Mr. Okello.
Oh, this Mr. Okello man you are seeing is a Ugandan, and he's a Ugandan who is almost becoming a senior citizen. He has been in natural resource management for close to 30 years now. I studied forestry in Makerere University in the late 1980s, entering 1990, 91. And I also did a master's degree in natural resource management itself from Makerere University. So Mr. Okello worked as a forest officer in the 1990s. I was a young extension officer. My work was to talk to farmers, to introduce to them and bring to them the message, the gospel according to the conservation, the gospel according to the green environment. And from there, I went to Uganda Wildlife Authority, where I worked for 15 years. And I decided to come back home to forestry, where I started from. So that is where I am now. I'm the Executive Director of National Forest Authority. I've been in this position for exactly four years today. Exactly.
4 years.
No minutes, no hours, no days, but exactly 4 years today.
I'm glad to have you.
And I'm here. I'm ready to talk to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you talked about where you went for bachelor's and where you've worked from the career, but you haven't told us where you went for primary, secondary.
Those primaries now, you see, those are many years, and the districts have changed. Some of them. So if I tell you I was in primary in Lira district, the district now is no longer Lira. It is now Mola. It is now Mola. I come from Kwania.
Kwania, okay.
Which is Apache, the former Apache district. Yeah. So the districts have changed, but basically, to go by the current districts, I went to primary school in Amolata district, which was part of Lira district at that time. And then after that, I went to Lango College for my O level.
I was in Lango 2 months ago.
Lango College is in Lira, the city now. Then I went for HSC in Nabumale High School in Mbale. So that time it was Mbale, but now it could even be in another district, Manafa probably, or Bupulu. So things have changed, but that is the path I followed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hearing that, I think you're a married man.
Yes, I have children.
Okay.
And I have adult children now.
And how about the grandchildren?
The Bazukulus. The Bazukulu, I have one.
And more are coming.
And more are coming. Some are on the offing now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to have you on this program, the Uganda Want Our Viewers. We are going to hear more from Mr. Tom Okello. As I told you in the introduction, he is the Executive Director for National Forest Authority. And can we just go straight into the gist of the matter? What is a National Forest Authority mandate? We've been hearing about the National Forest Authority.
So, our viewers, National Forest Authority is a government agency which was formed by an act of parliament. It was formed by the National Forestry and Tree Planting Act of 2003. And at that time, before that law, forestry in this country was being managed by the Forest Department, which was a department in the ministry responsible for forest. The names of the ministries also kept changing. At that time, it was Ministry of Natural Resources. Then it became Ministry of Water, Lands and Environment. So Lands, Energy and Environment. So I think by the time NFA was born, we had the Ministry of Water, Lands and Environment. Now, when NFA was formed in 2003 by that law, it gave it a mandate. And the mandate given to National Forest Authority is to sustainably manage all the central forest reserves in this country. You know, forestry in this country are categorized into different categories. We have the central forest reserves. These are forest reserves which are managed by the central government. And on behalf of the central government, they are managed by National Forestry Authority.
Then examples.
These are the forests you know.
Yeah.
All the forests you know are central forest reserves.
We studied.
Those big ones, the
Mabiras,
the Budongos, the Bugomas, the Kalinzus. These are all central forest reserves. But we also have local forest reserves. Forests which are gazetted as local forest reserves and managed by the local governments, the various local governments, the district.
Now we have gone back to the district now.
Yes.
We talk about local government.
Yeah, so we have those categories of forest reserves also. But many of them are small. You may find that 10 hectares, 5 hectares. So they're small. So you may not know them, but they're there. Now, we also have forests which are privately owned. They're not for government. Those first two categories are government forests. Local government, central government. But these other ones, the private forests are for you, for me.
Oh, so, okay, what you're trying to say is I can as well plant my own forest.
And own it. And become your forest. But you can also have your natural forest. In areas where people are not yet destroyed land. You remember, I will talk about the status of forests in this country with some historical background. But there are still areas, for example, in Bunyoro, where there are natural forests, which are not government. They are for either the community or for individuals. Now, those ones are privately owned forests. It can be for an individual, but also can be for a community. A group of people in a community can also say, we want to leave this area to be our own community forest, where we can go and relax. But in many cases, people do cultural issues there. People go to worship their gods. You know, there are people with their gods.
The small gods.
The small, I don't know whether they're small or big.
Small
Gods, yeah. They go to worship their small gods there, but in the forest. And they don't cut them. They have their traditional methods of keeping those forests.
That's what we grew up hearing, that forest is for this. This
and they will tell you, if you go and touch a tree there, your hands may get stuck on the tree. So those were conservation methods. Huh? they were methods of keeping.
Our twin forest.
Yes. Where the twins, for example, are buried if they die. So if you go there, they will tell you, you know, you will hear people crying. So children will not go there. They will fear. But also now, it was a cultural norm for the protection of natural resources. And it worked in those days. But now we are seeing people who are defiant. They may go at night and fell a tree there and convert into timber when people are asleep.
Yeah. I think you're saying something important. Like my grandfather had a tree at home, and he could say, anyone who will tamper with that tree, when you cut it, will also die.
Yeah.
That's what you used to tell.
That is it.
He was trying to preserve.
Those are the cultural, traditional approaches to conservation, which people used in the past, and they worked at that time. Because you see, at that time, people were really abiding by the culture before the advent of the Western cultures coming in. So people were abiding. But back to NFA mandate. NFA was created, charged with the management of those central forest reserves, but also given the mandate to develop them. And when the law gave us the forest reserve, the central forest reserve, the 506 in number, but also gave us the power to recommend, to identify areas where the minister can gazette as forest reserves, but also to identify areas which possibly were forest reserves, but now that initial objective of making it a forest reserve could have been overtaken by time and events. So if they are to be degazetted, we also have that mandate to advise the minister, because it is the minister who gazettes and degazettes, to either gazette or to degazette. One other thing which the law gave us was to get ways of working with the neighboring communities, to involve them in conservation, in management of this forest, but also to get benefits. Because you see, these people, traditionally, before these areas were gazetted, they were deriving firewood. The others were getting fruits. They were picking water from the water points in the forest. You know, in the forest, water is very clean. It is not contaminated. It is not polluted. There is no erosion. Therefore, there is no siltation inside the forest. But when it comes out, there's a lot of things which happen. So many people prefer picking water from the forest. And so we have what we call collaborative forest management arrangement, which we work with the neighboring communities to these forest reserves, to involve them in protection, but also for their livelihoods. Because, for example, when they put beehives in the forest reserves, then they get honey and sell. So we have arrangement. We do it through a memorandum of understanding and through a collaborative a collaborative process.
Yes. So we can conclusively say that NFA is in existence by law.
By law. By an act of parliament. Yes.
Well, let me go off the script a little bit and ask, you talked about that you're going to talk about the status of like trying to give out the background
of the forest in the country.
Can you just
now Uganda, as you know, was really well endowed with natural resources, all natural resources. If you recall the history where somebody came and walked here, or I don't know whether he walked or he was carried, there was a British senior citizen.
Historically, they say he came.
He came. But you see, at that time, there were no vehicles. So, in most areas, people were being carried or you walk. So, that is Churchill came here. And you remember at the end of his tour, he described Uganda to be the pearl of Africa, where he said from east to west, the place is all green. But then he said, apart from the insects, the wild animals, the British should concentrate on Uganda. That was at that time because it was the real pearl of Africa. By 1900, Ugandan forest cover was over 50%. By 1900. over 50% of the country was covered by forest. By 1990, okay, it had reduced to 24%. From over 50, 24. From over 50 in 1900, by 1990, the forest cover in the country had reduced to 24%.
What caused the reduction?
Now, what caused the reduction, to me, is development and human population growth. Because I want to give you, I'm not very privy about the population of Uganda in 1900, but at least I know something about the population of Uganda from 1990. And I'm going to show you how it can lead to reduction in
1990, by then you were about to leave Makerere.
Yes.
From Makerere
Yes.
University.
There was a census which was done in 1992, which I participated in, population census. And Uganda, at that time, had a population of 12 million people. Is it 12.2?
Well, 12, yeah.
12.4. In 1992. So that means around 1990, the population could have been about 11, 12 million. Okay? So now, when our population was 11 million in 1990, our forest cover was 24%. In 2015, the forest cover reduced to 9%.
From 24 to 9?
Yes.
We started at 50?
Yes.
That is 1900. Then 1990, 24%.
Yes.
Then 2015,
9%.
9%.
Now, what was the population of Uganda in 2015? From 1992, the population had over doubled.
20.
By 2015, we are over 30 million.
We are 30, yeah, we are 30 million.
So, when the population increases, the demand for forest resources go up. First of all, we need land for agriculture. We need fuel wood for cooking.
That land was occupied
by forests, which is now removed and put into agriculture. I want to tell you that between 1990 to that 2015, we lost slightly over 2 million hectares of woodland in this country. Okay?
Say that again.
Between 1990 and 2015, Uganda lost over 2 million hectares of woodland in the country. And a woodland is a forest. And between that same period, Ugandans' land and agriculture, under subsistence agriculture, increased from about 8 million hectares to over 10 million hectares. So we lost 2 million hectares of woodland, but we gained 2 million hectares of agricultural land.
Correct.
So where did the forest go? It went into agricultural land. Okay? So I wanted to explain to you the impact of increasing population.
Then how can you then connect with settlement? Haven't we lost a forest due to settlement?
No, we have. But I'm talking of the biggest. The biggest cause was agriculture. Coupled with that demand for fuel wood to feed the increasing population. Because the more the number of people in your home, the more bags of charcoal you need. The more headloads of fire, we call it headloads. This one which women carry from the bush, they call them headloads. The more headloads you need to cook. Now, you raise another cause of deforestation. That is what we are calling urbanization and settlements. It is true, but the scale cannot be compared to that one of agriculture. We are also seeing Uganda becoming more and more urban. And from statistics, if you check the Uganda Bureau of Statistics records, I think Uganda is one of the fastest growing in urban areas in this world, meaning in Africa. We are one of the fastest urbanizing country in Africa. That is from statistics from UBOS.
Help me, I want to understand something. So if we had 50% forest coverage as a country in 1901, then you started reducing to 9%. So I want to know, should we say that by then the forests were, no one had control over the forest land and agriculture, settlement, you can just, cut down the
No. People had control. You see, I've already explained to you the categories of forests we have in the country. We have central forest reserves managed by NFA. We have local forest reserves managed by the local government. We also have forestry under UWA, under Uganda Wildlife Authority, the forests which are in wildlife conservation area.
So this percentage covers all?
All.
Okay.
But we also have forests which belongs to you, belongs to me, belongs to my grandfather, my father, who, because his children were growing and marrying, he decides now, you man, Okello, this is yours. So you go and now, this is yours. Go and you marry and you settle here. Then you grow your crops. So that is where we had the biggest loss. So most of the loss I'm talking about took place in private forest, private land. For example, this is statistics. In 1990, that 24% was constituted like this. That 24%, 70% of the 24 was in private land.
Wow.
The government was 1990.
That's close to 18% out of the 20.
That one was in private land. It is only 30% which was on the government land. But now it has changed. If you look at the 2015 statistics, things had changed. The government land now was taking 60%. Then the private land was now remaining with only 40%. So that means most of the loss had already taken place in, and yet the government forest, the area had not increased. But you see, the percentage is increasing, but the area has not increased because these are gazetted areas, they have fixed areas. So that means something had happened. People were busy clearing on the other side, but this one was being fairly maintained. Yes, we also lost something in government forest, but the loss was not commensurate with the other side, which I've talked about. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So now, in line with that background, I just want to know, you know very well Uganda has a vision.
Yes.
And Uganda having that vision, how has NFA achieved, working towards achieving the vision 2040?
Now, the vision 2040 for Uganda talks about a transformed Ugandan society from a peasant
to
a prosperous, to a modern and prosperous people by 2040. And that vision is hinged around strengthening the fundamentals of economic growth, and also harnessing the abundant opportunities. And one of the opportunities in natural resources is dental.
Oh,
yes.
Natural resources.
One of it is natural resources, because you see, Uganda has abundant natural resources also. We talked of minerals. We have oil. We have other minerals. We have iron ore.
Extractors.
Yes.
15,
we have gold.
55,
we have gold. We have the forest resources. We have water resources. So that thinking at that time was, yes, Uganda should harness the opportunities which it has, so that we can achieve our vision of seeing our people out of poverty, making them modern, and removing them from the peasant type of life. The president has always explained that the peasant type of life, you're only working for the stomach. Yeah, we are not working for money, we are working for the stomach. And that is very dangerous, because somebody who is working for the stomach. That is the one. That is the one.
I don't know, how do you say it?
In my language.
In your language.
You are only working for the stomach. The president has also been explaining.
I want you to say it.
Teach for each.
For you now, you're saying it.
Teach for each. You're only working for each is the stomach. That is exactly. Yeah. You're only working for only your stomach. You are not thinking of tomorrow. So tomorrow, if there is any disaster, then you are finished. Now, what is NFA doing to work towards that? You know, the forestry sector is one of the key what they call a key growth area. Forest employees. Employees. Because we are talking of when you want to modernize, when you want to transform, you must industrialize. Okay? One of the things you must do is to industrialize. You must create jobs and wealth for the people. That's how you're going to transform them. Now, here we are as the forest sector. We must work towards ensuring that we contribute to the economic development of this country. How are we doing it?
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. How are you doing it and how are you do it?
We have licensed people, private sector. We're working with the private sector to develop industrial plantations of forests in this country, in forest reserves. There were forest reserves which were earmarked for plantation development. We as government, we didn't have enough resources to do it ourselves because these are big areas. So as I talk now, we have over 100,000 hectares of industrial plantations established in forest reserve by both the private sector and National Forest Authority. Out of the about 102, out of that, NFA has 14,000 hectares. The rest is private sector, 90-something, about 80-something thousand hectares is done by the private sector. Now, forestry is labor intensive. You see, you are starting from collecting a seed. You are going to raise seedlings in a nursery. The seedlings must be transported to where you are going to plant. You must clear the land. You must plant. You must weed. You must look after it. All those contribute to employment. We estimate that forestry in the country is directly and indirectly employing about 1 million people. So that is one area where we are thinking we promoted to make sure that these trees grow. But also now, because of the growth of the tree, because of the available raw material, we have seen so many industries coming up. We have one, do you know the biggest wood industry in Uganda is operated by Nile Ply in Ginger. I think Nile Ply employs over 2,000 people in one factory. They have another factory in Nakasongola doing these panel products, like this one here you see, employing so many people. But we have now several small ones which have come, small-scale industries. So many of them. In fact, there could be about 40. Taking the wood which people have grown and converting into adding value, that is wood value chain, to create products. And that is employment. If they pay taxes, they are contributing to economic development of this country. So we are encouraging industrialization of the wood industry, of the forest industry, so that we can create jobs, so that people can get money from taxes, so that we can get products which can be exported and we get the foreign exchange. So that is one way we are doing it. But we are also encouraging people to plant their own trees. You are not going to be modern if you don't have fruit trees in your home, for example. You are not going to be modern when you are eating only cassava and beans without fruits as part of the diet. That modern and the modern people which our vision is talking about must have a balanced diet. So there must be fruits. There must be
Americans call it dash diet.
But we don't also want the junk one. For us, we want organic food. As a country, we want our people to eat healthy so that they remain healthy. We don't want to go too much into they call it processed.
Yeah, and when you talk about fruits, then you're talking about a tree because,
Yeah, that is a tree.
You have to plant.
That is a tree. But also you must live in a healthy environment. You must have a shade, for example, in your home. You cannot tell me you have a modern home when you don't have any tree in your home. I don't think that is a modern home. If we go to measure the modernity of your home and we find you are in a house where there is not a single flower, not a single tree, is that a modern home, really? I don't think it is modern. And if, by the way, look around, you have seen many people being interviewed Our MPs, our ministers, normally they are interviewed at home at times. But you see the background, very beautiful, flowers, trees. I think that's what a modern home should be. So when we are talking of modern,
I wanted to have you outside there.
Yeah.
That you have a busy.
That is true.
Because there's a green outside.
Yes,
there.
and our environment is green. So this is a modern office with a green environment. So we want to contribute to employment. We want to do that, contribute to the industrialization of this country. We want people not to lack the forest resources. You know, for example, right now, do you know that about 70% of the population still relies on wood fuel?
Yeah.
Now, how do you buy your food and fail to cook it? Because you don't have charcoal, you don't have firewood. Are you a modern person? You are not.
Yeah.
So a modern person, where we are going, we want families, households to have some small wood lots, which can be windbreaks to their homes, which can provide them with the fuel wood, provide them with fruits, provide them with fodder for their animal. Because there are some who are practicing, they are raising livestock, and forestry can contribute to that. So I told you, forestry is a key growth sector, which people must harness.
Yeah. So just to nail it a little bit more, when you talk about that you're working with the private sector, like private people who want to plant forests, how are you doing it? Do you give them for free? Do they?
No. We don't give.
It done?
No. What the law provides, this law which we have here, this is the National Forestry and Tree Planting Act. I normally keep them here. These are like my Bible here. Now, this law provides that when opportunity like that arises, you advertise it. You identify the members of the private sector through a fair and open competition. So the last time we advertised for these opportunities was in 2017. So many people applied, the bids were evaluated, and opportunities were given to people. So when we give you a license to operate in a forest reserve. This law says you can do an activity in a forest reserve through a license. So we give you a license, and this license you pay. You pay what they call a land use fee because you are using government land. And the money you pay goes to the consolidated fund. It is money for the people of Uganda. It is appropriated by Parliament for whatever the money is supposed to do in this country. Yes, some of it come back to us because we also need money. We need money to manage these resources. So Parliament appropriates funding for National Forest Authority. So that is what they call the non-tax revenue, which we collect on behalf of government.
Okay. Yeah. Is there a difference between a mandate, vision, and mission?
There is a difference.
Okay, so what is the NFA vision?
The NFA vision is to be a world-class global leader in sustainable forest management. That is the vision. And this vision, we thought very big. We want to be counted among those giants in forest conservation in the world. Because why not? Why not us? We were the pearl of Africa. Some people were admiring us in 18 something. We were being admired.
Well, just in line with what you're trying to explain, the vision, how have you achieved that vision?
How are we moving to achieve the vision?
You haven't achieved it.
A vision is a long-term plan, a long-term thought, a long-term dream. That is just like Uganda dreamt. 2040. So we are also thinking along that line. Probably by that time.
Now you are at the middle.
Probably by that time. By that time we should be there. Now, what are we doing to go there? We are trying to modernize. Because you see, I told you about a modern society. We are also modernizing. So we are improving on our management capabilities by mobilizing the resources.
Oh, you started with management.
Yes, we are mobilizing resources. And by resource, I mean all the resources. Human capital, that is human resource. we want to have the logistics, the equipment for forest management. On the human resource side, we want to professionalize. We must be professional foresters. We must do things right. We must do things with integrity. We must be patriotic and love our profession and love our jobs and love our institution. That is one. On the other side of logistics, you see, forestry is a science. We are developing capacity to monitor, to see what is happening in the forest reserve. And by the way, you can see what is happening in Mabera from here, from this office. So those capabilities, the geographical information system, remote sensing capabilities. So we are trying to do all this because we think for us to be a world class, you must be somebody with information, with data. We must have data for
accessible data
for decision making. We must know how much forest resources we have in this country, and that's our mandate. We do what we call land use mapping for the country. If you want to know how much land is under agriculture, how much land is under forest, how much land is under water, how much land is wetland, come to our office. We'll just click some few buttons and you'll see the latest statistics. So that is part of science. So you cannot be a world-class global whatever leader unless you have those equipment, unless you are able to predict the future using science, unless you are able to predict that this year our population, our plantation stock is this amount in terms of money. Where we have not yet done well is to get the figures for the natural forest. We need to know the value of Mabera, Central Forest Reserve, so that when you come to me and say, by the way, how much is Mabera worth? I'm able to tell you that Mabera is worth, say, $1 trillion. Yeah, and that is what we call economic valuation of the natural resources. We need to do total economic valuation of all our forest resources. We have values for the plantations, because these ones, plantations are easier because, you know, these are areas where a lot of research was done. We have what we call volume tables. We can predict how it is growing because these trees grow for fewer years and they grow very fast. So we can know how much is being added in a pine plantation every year in the country. So these are things which we are doing to try to meet and achieve our vision.
Your vision.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And you've heard it from Mr. Tom Okello. He is the Executive Director for National Forest Authority. We are talking about the forest sector today. I hope you are excited. And in our next episode, we'll talk about more about the challenges and what you need to do as a Ugandan. And my take home is in line with what he has said. How are you going to respond to ensure that we achieve the Uganda we want? My name is Robert Mulanzi. We sign out.